Hey, this is Ant bringing you an Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. So in this one I'm going to go over how you create a character select screen. So say if you've created a game where you've got different classes of character, so in this case it's a first person template and I'm using an assault character, a medic, an overwatch and a specialist sort of class. So if I just quickly demonstrate what I mean. So I've got a one player game with a zombies mode in it. And as you can see here, I've got Assault, Medic, Overwatch and Specialist, which correspond to this below. So in here, there's no pawn been selected yet, but if I click on the Assault class, this spawns with a weapon automatically, and each class has its own unique abilities. If I hit Escape again, run through that, go into one player mode, and say choose an Overwatch. If I eject from the pawn, it's got a different colour, and again it corresponds this to the Overwatch class down here. So without further ado, I'll go into that now. So in this tutorial I'm going to be using engine version 4.26. You can pretty much follow the same principles, but bear in mind with each engine version there might be differences in the codes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a characters folder. So I'm going to right click in here, characters. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my blueprints folder. Now bear in mind I'm using the third person CPP folder. I'm going to right click and I'm going to just quickly duplicate this. I'm just going to call this character base. It saves having to duplicate it and having to reset all the meshes in that, so I'm just going to use the existing template as an example. I'm going to drag it into the characters folder and then click move here. Just going to right click on that and I'm just going to fix up the redirections in the folder. Go into characters, and as you can see we've got a character base. So next thing I'm going to do is right click this, I'm going to create a child blueprint class. I'm just going to call this red character. Next, I'm going to right click on here again, create another child blueprint, and I'm going to call this blue character, and as you guessed it, create another child blueprint class, call this green underscore character. And this will be explained a little bit later on, but for now I've got a base character and I've got basically a red, blue and green character. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a interface. So I'm going to go into blueprints, right click blueprints, blueprint interface. I'm going to call this player controller interface. Just watch the spawn. And I'm going to open that up. Just going to quickly dock that with the top. And I'm going to just call that character select method. Okay, for that method I'm going to take an input. So for this I'm going to use a variable, an integer. I'm just going to call this selection. Again, this will make more sense, but I'm just getting all the various blueprints set up and it will make sense later when I come to implement them. Next, I'm going to right click in here and go into blueprints, and I'm going to go into blueprint class, and I'm going to create a derivative of player controller blueprint. And I'm going to call that BP character control. Okay. Next thing I'm quickly going to do is I'm going to go into BP character controller, open that up, and if I go into the event graph, class settings, I'm going to add that new player controller interface. hit compile, save, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and then events characters select method. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this folder for now. You can put it wherever you want, but I'm going to create a user interface called Widget Blueprints, beg your pardon. Character select WBP or Widget Blueprints. I'm going to open that up and that'll bring you into the panel. So for this, I just want basically a selection of 3 buttons in a horizontal box, so it's not going to be anything too complicated. I'm going to drop a horizontal box in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a button. I'm going to drop it onto the canvas panel here, and I'm going to get some text as well, put that onto there. So in the text, I'm going to just call that red. And for now, my bad, I'm going to select the button. I'm just going to make it fill that. Now, what I'm going to quickly do now is get rid of that. I'm going to select it, Control C, select the horizontal box, and Control V. Change that text to blue. Select that again, Control V, and I'm just going to change that text to green. Okay, so just quickly rename these buttons. So red button, so I'll just go red button, actually, it'll be too long. Red button, blue button, and you guessed it, green button. Hit compile, select red button, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create a binding. So click on that, go back in there, and repeat that for all of the buttons in here. Lastly, but not least, clicked here. So that's pretty much all the blueprints that I need. So in the next part, I'm going to go over how to code the player controller. So in this part, we're going to code the player controller. So I'm just going to move that out of the way a second. I don't need tick, so I can delete that. And I'm going to basically just drag off this event begin play. So the first thing I need to do is get a reference to the control pawn. So type get controlled pawn, drag that in. I'm going to promote that to a variable, and this is going to be the old pawn. Essentially what happens is whenever you change character, you should be doing something with the old pawn, whether it's a default pawn or if it's the base character, but this will make more sense later on. So I'm going to get a reference to self, and I'm just going to go into create character widget. So create widget, select the class, and I'm going to want this to be the character select blueprint widget. Hit compile, and next I'm going to basically just say, okay then, I want to use this again. I'm just going to call this the select character ref. I'm just going to quickly just update this, so it's basically so it saves whenever I compile. Next I'm just going to drag the select character ref in. And I'm going to go add to viewport. What I need to do is quickly test this, so I'm going to just go into maps and modes, and if whatever game mode you're using, you need to change that to this BP character controller. And I've hit play. There you go, the widget's appeared on screen. So we know that's working. Back into the player controller blueprint. Next I want to show the mouse cursor. So what I'm going to do again, I'm just going to get a reference to self, and I'm going to set show mouse cursor, and I want that to be true. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to maybe focus one of the buttons. That's an option, so select character reference, and let's see, I just want to get the red button. And what you can do here is you could go to set input mode UI only. You can actually select if you want something to be focused, and what you want to do is you want to get a reference to player controller and connect that to self. Okay, next thing I want to do is just quickly test that to see if that works. So I'm just going to hit play. There you go. Yeah, so I've got my mouse cursor. Now I need to handle the next part. So in the next bit we'll look at the actual character widget itself. So for the next part I'm going to configure the player widget, but before I quickly do that I'm just going to add something to this interface. From here I'm just going to get a print string, and I'm just going to leave that now. I just want to find it if the interface method's called. So going into the widget blueprint, so you want to go into the graph. It's time to code this. So what I want to do is I want to get only play. If that's valid, I want to basically run the interface, so to call that. So does it implement the interface? And as we want it, as we called, we want player controller interface. Pulling a branch. If so, I want it to use this interface, so message character select method. And just put something in like 1 for now. Okay. So next thing I quickly need to do is just see if that works. So if that's currently connected to the red button, so if I hit play, yeah, so it's calling the interface, everything's fine with that. So it's time now to finish off the other 2 buttons in the widget blueprint. So I'm just going to reuse a bit of code. I'm just going to copy, drag that into that. All I'm doing is selecting the nodes and Control W to copy them. And why not? Let's make sure that the controller does implement the interface again. We'll just drag it into here, and we'll drag it into here. Okay. Now, next thing I want to do is I'm going to just create a private variable here based on the selection. So I'm just going to use an integer. I'm just going to call this index. I'm going to make this private because it doesn't need to be used anywhere else. And I'm just going to drag that in, hold Alt, and I'm going to use that as a setter. So index 1, Control W, index 2, and select again, Control W, index 3. Very 2, index 3. So each of these indexes will relate to a particular character, and it will make more sense when it's plugged in. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag index in. I'm going to connect that to this, and rather than just copying the end port again, I'm I'm just going to do this. It'll do the same thing where I'm having to copy the interface call and the index again. Hit compile, and that's pretty much the blueprint ready to go for in terms of the widget. So if they click that, they'll get index 1 for red character, blue they'll get index 2, and then green they'll get index 3. So in the next part I'm going to show you how to finish off the controller so that it'll actually spawn a character in the world. So back in the controller, I'm going to basically, instead of using a print string, I'm going to use this interface. So we've got multiple selections based on an index, so in order to make this easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable inside the player controller, and this is basically a map. So if you just quickly change the type to integer, go onto the drop down, and you can see map, or as it's known as dictionary. What I'm going to do next is you have a key value, which is the integer type. This is the one we're using to select it. Now in this one I'm going to use basically a base class. So if I find out what I call mine, in the characters I called it character base. So that's exactly what I'm going to use in here, character base, and I want a class reference. Now the reason why I'm using a character base is because of the way that inheritance works in C++ or in general in most object-oriented programs. So my red, blue and green characters are all child blueprints of the character base. That's the parent blueprint. Each of these child blueprints is a character base, so if I populate the map, I'll be able to select the red, green and blue character interface without having to select, create a new variable for each one. So I'll quickly demonstrate that now. I'm just going to call this the character map. I'm going to quickly hit compile, add the first element 1, add the second element 2, add the third element 3. First one I'm going to call is red, the second one is going to be green, blue, RBG, and the third one is going to be green. Now I'm going to quickly show that. So I'm going to control, drag my character map in. I'm going to drag off this, and I'm going to find. So this node will basically use the index that's fired through from the widget, and it will find the character based on the button that's selected. If it finds that, I'm going to get to confirm if it's returned that value. If that's true, for now I'm just going to quickly get the display name, and why not add a print string. So compile and save, force a habit. I'm just going to quickly demonstrate the map in action now. It should come up with the display name for the characters, so it should come up red character, blue character, green character. So I'm going to hit play, red character, blue character, green character. So we know that that map is working and that it's storing the class references to each of these characters down here, so that's good news. So next we'll continue with the player controller. Okay, continuing on with the player controller, it's time to actually spawn the class into the world. So I've go back into my BP character controller, and I'm going to be continuing from this interface call here. So I'm going to keep this now just for debugging, and just to keep it on top of where everything is. So I'm going to right click in here, I'm going to get control pawn. Next, I want to get the transform, get actor transform. From this, I want to spawn an actor. So spawn actor from class, connect that here, and what I want to do next is I want to just quickly connect that into there. Hit compile, And basically what should happen is when the interface method is fired, it will fire the index that was selected in the widget, it will return that class reference, and it will spawn that actor into the world. Now what I'm going to need to do here is I'm just going to quickly go back to the spawn actor, and I'm just going to quickly just call that possessed one. Hit compile, and then what I want to do is, because we're in controller, I want to call possess, and I want to use that end pawn there. Next thing I want to do is I'm just going to quickly get a reference to self again. I want to set the input mode to game mode only, and what I also want to do is just quickly get the character reference, and I want to just remove from parent. Okay, next I just want to get a reference to the old pawn. This is the thing that we created right at the start, and I'm going to destroy the pawn. So destroy actor, connects that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we now have a system in place that will spawn these actors in. So quickly, what I need to do is we need to be able to differentiate from these. So if I quickly just go into the red character, go onto the mesh, and then under male body, I've created some instances here. I'm just going to quickly change the colour of that so that we can tell that we've started in a different pawn. Blue character, mesh, hopefully fingers crossed I've created multiple ones. No, I haven't. Okay, well that's fine, I can quickly do that. So find out where that is. I'm going to create a material instance. I'm just going to call it male body inst. Double click that, select the body colour, and then just turn it to blue. Hit save, and there we go. And I can quickly just change that to blue, and same again for the green colour. So green. It doesn't have to be perfect, this is just for demonstration. Turn that green, hit save. What I'll quickly do is we'll just quickly go into the green character, and I'm going to change that into green. So all the characters now have like a distinct colour. So let's quickly test that to see if it works. So hit play, let's try a red character. There we go. So that worked. So we now possessed a red character. Play again, let's choose blue. And obviously I need to basically focus the mouse, but it's fine, it'll still run. And then lastly, but not least, choose green. And there you go. So we've got green characters. So just correct the thing where it's still showing the mouse. I'm just going to quickly just make a bit of space here. Self. Set show mouse cursor to false. Compile that. Hit play. So choose red character, there you go. So as you can see, there's no mouse cursor in the world now. So that brings us to the end of the video. So hopefully, going off what I've shown today, this will give you an idea of how you can basically spawn multiple characters in the world. So I've used colours as an example, but thinking about it, any of these characters can have different attributes, different methods, or do different things. So the important thing is that I've shown you how you can basically create a widget to allow you to select and possess new characters. But if you have any feedback or if you have any questions about this tutorial, please get in touch with the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching my video. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe to my channel.